Why don't we close our eyes and just take some breath? I'm not here to teach you anything. There's nothing that you need to learn. You can't add to the perfection that already exists. It's impossible. I'm simply here to remind you of what the world has conditioned you to forget. That underneath the roles and responsibilities, underneath this identity that you felt the need to create because you didn't feel safe, there's divinity. There's love. And you can call that divinity whatever you would like. It doesn't matter. It's there. And so tonight we're going to engage in a process of peeling away all of the layers that have been superimposed over the brilliance that you are. And it's my deepest wish that by the end of the evening, you come to know the love that you are and embody it in every moment of your life. Sound good? Take some breaths and you can bring your awareness back. There's nothing special about me. I don't have anything that you don't have. At a certain point in my journey, I simply finally had to have the courage to be myself. We may need to switch out this microphone. And in the moment when I cultivated the courage to be myself, I tapped into a flow of energy or potential that was dormant inside of me, that had always been there. And of course, I'm making it sound very easy, but stepping into the truth of who you are is often the hardest thing of all. Because from the moment you've been born, the moment you were born, you've been conditioned to be somebody other than yourself. Your parents gave you a framework of love that they received from their parents. The school system conditioned you to become a docile and compliant member of the workforce. Your peer group conditioned you to conform. And in the absence of that conformity, you were often teased and bullied. And then you got married. Don't need to say anything about that. Especially because some of you were here with your spouses. But what I can say is that's how committed you are to your evolution. And so life happens, and as life happens, we begin to more and more move away from who we are. Because we, as human beings, have a need to find belonging externally. The only problem is that the more you conform, the more you suffer. The more you try and become like everyone else's version of you, the more you struggle. The more you begin to live this robotic existence where you're just going through the motions every day, doing the same thing over and over and over again. unable to access the joy and the love and the connection that you so desperately want. But that you yourself, either knowingly or unknowingly, have disconnected yourself from. And so, human beings have gotten in their own way. There's nothing in nature that needs to be in this room. They don't have a Unity Church for squirrels. If they had one, it would be pretty cute. At the end of Sunday service, they would bring up their nuts to put in the collection box. So everything in nature remembers. Everything in nature remembers. So then why did we forget? Because at some point, fear was introduced into your experience as a human being. And that fear was introduced in lots of different ways. How it was introduced doesn't matter. The fact that it was introduced is what's important. And in that moment, you decided that it wasn't safe to be who you are anymore. So you created an ego. And the ego's role is to protect and defend the powerless and helpless aspects of you. That's why you have an identity. It's why you have an ego. You also then curated all of this unconscious programming inside of you. And of course, then you have to have an addiction to cope with the stress of surviving. And for most people, that's the sum total of their human experience. They vacillate between their ego, their unconscious programming, and their addiction that they need to have to cope with the stress of surviving. And the majority of human beings are existing solely in a state of survival. Safety isn't an external phenomenon. Safety has to be restored internally. When I wrote Discovering Your Soul Signature, I started with the 7 hardest things that we deal with as human beings by design. Because if you were able to face those 7 things, then you'd be able to pass through that doorway into being able to receive and align with everything else that I had to say. So we as human beings don't know how to be human anymore. You can be the most successful person in the world, but you don't know how to navigate your emotions. You don't know how to navigate your mind. You don't know how to navigate your physicality. We've all of a sudden become disconnected from our knowing, our intuition. We've become disconnected from possibility and synchronicity. We've become disconnected from everything that's our birthright. So what you're here in the midst of is an awakening, a remembrance. And what we're remembering is that, first of all, that we're love. We're love. That all of this is like a giant simulation. It's just one giant simulation. Let's call it a video game. And the purpose of this fully immersive video game or simulation is to remember that you're love. So how do we get there? Well, by first of all, acknowledging that it isn't real. It's an illusion. That the light of pure potential is shining through you, and then the degree to which you have embraced what's inside of you is the degree to which that light can be expressed through you into this world. So a one-day-old child experiences reality as love, as pure potential. That one-day-old child has yet to receive a single imprint It's a sovereign being. What's happened to you is that throughout the course of time, you've accumulated certain blemishes that distort the clarity of the lens that you are. And because that lens has been distorted, you can't see the world clearly anymore. So, for example, when you meet another person, instead of seeing yourself, you see somebody that looks different than you that maybe you have to be afraid of. You see somebody other than you that you have to play the egoic game of being better or less than with. You need to prove yourself because you want their approval. So we're no longer relating as human beings. We're relating as characters in a movie that isn't real. We're relating as figments of our imagination that aren't based in fact. Right now, the version of you that you're experiencing is the memory of you. Just take a breath and stay with me. This is important. The version of you that you're experiencing in this moment is actually a memory of you. You're not actually here. You're not actually here. You are actually experiencing life through the memory of yourself. I'll explain why. Memory requires heightened emotion. You don't remember an average day. You remember the worst day of your life and the best day of your life. But you don't remember an average day. And the reason why you're interfacing with reality as the memory of you is because you haven't addressed the density or the heaviness or that which is unresolved from the past in order to be present. So then what is the function of spiritual practice? It's an entirely destructive process. It's not about attaining anything. It's not about becoming enlightened. It's not about becoming some better version of you. It's about shining the light of your awareness on everything that you have yet to develop the courage to accept and embrace about yourself. And the degree to which you can shine the light of your awareness on that thing and be grateful for it is the degree to which you are free. So tonight I've come here to give you the cheat code. Okay? Save you some time. Tonight's cheat code is sponsored by Kroger Park. So, I was walking Kroger Park, and there was a wonderful, actually, kind of this green thing on the wall, and it said Kroger Park on the top, and then it said grateful. I'm like, wow, how fascinating that the theme of the talk would arrive through a selfie opportunity. An outdoor shopping mall. And the reason why I was heading in this direction was because I was going to get a matcha green tea venti almond milk latte with no foam. And I'm sharing this with you because I'm coming to both services tomorrow, so I expect some to be here. A venti matcha green tea, no foam almond milk latte. Extra credit tomorrow. So I was heading in the direction of this warm beverage because it was cold. And there it is, grateful. 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 Gratitude. How amazing. How amazing that right before I'm about to come and speak to 200 and something souls that are here, that's the message. And of course, it was no accident because it's completely congruent with everything that I've been personally experiencing. There are two versions of reality unfolding simultaneously. There is a version of reality that's preordained and predestined. That's God's version of your life. I'll let you sit with that for a moment. There's a version of reality that's preordained and predestined. So remember I said it was a simulation or a video game. Guess who designed the game? You did. Take a breath. You programmed the game. Now what does that mean? That means that you're 100% accountable and responsible for every piece of rejection, every piece of betrayal, every piece of heartbreak, every piece of pain, every piece of grief, every piece of anger, every piece of everything that has constituted your experience of being a human being since the moment you were born. The trauma, the abuse, all of it. That's what that means. We're living inside of a simulation or a video game that was designed by you. Now, some of you are like, well, why on earth would I design a game like that? Why on earth would I choose to be abused? Why would I choose to be molested? Why would I choose to experience pain? Why would I choose to experience suffering? Because you courageous souls committed to waking up in the midst of it. Your waking up in the midst of it crashes the whole game. I'll have that phone. I'll have it. Bring it to me. I'll answer it. Whose phone is that? Bring me. Whose phone is that? Bring me the phone. Is it still ringing? Okay, keep it. So why would we choose these things? Why would we choose these things? Compassion. Compassion. Love. You've chosen every single thing in your life because you love that much. And you chose it to one day wake up in the midst of it and end it on behalf of every other human being. We are finishing an entire cycle of human existence. That cycle of human existence is finishing inside of you. That's why most of you have chosen such difficult and challenging, intense journeys this time around. That's how committed you are to ending the game. To ending the game, to restoring harmony and oneness and balance and order again, inside of you and then in the world at large. That's why. Our suffering humbles us so that we can receive the help that we need. Our suffering gets louder and louder and louder until we finally throw our hands up in the air and say, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I need help. And it's right around that time when the grace that we need comes flooding into our life. That moment came for me in a hospital in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. My daughter was born with a congenital heart disease, went into heart failure, and subsequently required a heart transplant. And just on the 12th of this month, we celebrated her 3rd year Angel Heart anniversary. As a father, I experienced a level of powerlessness that I cannot convey in words. And the pain associated with that experience was so excruciating that you can't escape it. You know, have you ever had pain that's so all-consuming that there's no relief from it? In the midst of that, I was still teaching and traveling and doing everything and trying to continue to support an ever-expanding community, as well as basically hold it together for my mom, who was just devastated, my wife, and my remaining 3 children. So I get to a point on this journey where I had to get off of the roller coaster. I had to get off the hamster wheel. So I made my way down to the chapel in the midst of what seemed to be yet another impossible intervention for her health to save her life. And I just said, I'm done. I'm done. I'm willing to accept whatever her journey is. And if that means that she's not meant to be here, then I'm at peace with that. I'm done. I, Panache, I don't know what to do. There's nothing that I can do. The person who helps people from all over the world with every imaginable situation and scenario in this moment is absolutely fundamentally incapable of helping his own daughter. You see, we're living in this false notion that life isn't meant to impact us. Life is meant to impact you. And sometimes it impacts you in the form of a freight train heading in your direction with an absolute inability to brake before it hits you. And why does that happen? It's grace. It's grace. We have too narrow a definition of what being spiritual is. My angels didn't come with wings and trumpets, look like cherubs, regaling me lovingly in that hotel room as we were on a hotel room, hospital room, as we were going through this journey. My angels were there in the form of doctors with medical scrubs and nurses. Human beings who had dedicated their lives to trying to make a difference in some way. And in that moment, I realized that everyone is an angel. That actually, when we expand our definition of the word spiritual to be inclusive of everybody, we don't need to use that word anymore. There's no longer any distinction between somebody who's spiritual and somebody who isn't. We're able to recognize the inherent divinity in all people. And then we're able to act accordingly. And that doesn't mean that you're going to wake up and have it be perfect every day and not get upset and not get frustrated and not feel everything that there is to feel as a part of your experience. Of course you are. But my deepest wish for you is that you get to a point where you're able to be grateful for whatever that experience is. Be grateful for the fact that your heart is breaking. Be grateful for the fact that that divorce happened. Be grateful for the fact that that financial situation that's playing out in your life is playing out. Why? Because you are being humbled so that you can receive the help that you need. And in the moment you get that, in the moment you get that you, at the level of your identity, don't have what it takes to get you through what you need to get through, and you open your heart to something greater, it's in that moment where all of a sudden everything begins to line up. Everything begins to fall into place. There's a deeper way of being and a deeper way of engaging in this world that becomes available to you. And I don't care what you've done. I love you. It doesn't matter how you've lived your life. It doesn't matter to me who you've hurt. None of that matters. And I don't want you to hold on to any of it. Not one shred of it. When I wrote Soul Signature, I spoke about an experience that I'd had of the divine. And for me, I needed to have this experience because I was very skeptical, especially being Indian. Because I had met spiritual teachers that were wonderful and that were aligned and that were really had a calling and were doing something that was of value, and then I just met people that were just had a career. And it was just about themselves and just whatever. And so for me, my whole life I'd been told I was here to do something, and I never believed it on face value. I don't believe anything. Unless I can experience it, it isn't true. Especially as it relates to God. And I was very undecided about God. That is a very loaded word in the English language. There is a lot that has happened on this planet in the name of God. that quite honestly is interesting, let's say. So I had a hard time with that word, reconciling that word. And I, at one point in my frustration, said, okay, right, whatever you are, God, show me. Show me what you are. Because until I can see, feel, and experience what you are, I'm not going to look at someone who just lost a child, or look at someone who's struggling with addiction, or look at someone who abused somebody and can't live with themselves, or look at somebody who's in jail, or look at somebody who's gone through something and let them know that the truth is love. I can't do that. I'm not going to do it. So that night I experienced wave after wave of energy. And literally layer after layer of who I thought I was being lifted off of me. I got to a point where the whole room was just filled with this beautiful presence. And that presence was beyond anything that I can describe in words. I was shown very clearly that this presence is who we all are. We're all this presence. It doesn't matter how we articulate our relationship with the divine, whether we believe in the divine, whether we don't believe in the divine. It doesn't matter. We're all a part of this energy, this oneness. And that this is where we came from. This is what we're here to experience, even though it doesn't always feel that way, because the mind compartmentalizes experience. And this is what we will return to. After that experience, I went into bliss for about 3 to 6 months. I was just drooling, staring at my ceiling fan, just in awe of life. Just gold everywhere, golden light and presence everywhere, and everything so intoxicating. And of course, people being people, they'd heard what had happened to me and they wouldn't leave me alone. So they were getting in the way of my ceiling time fan. Or ceiling fan time. And so I felt the need to create a formal time when people could come, so I could stare at my ceiling fan with them in the room at the same time. And back in those days, I wouldn't say very much, because there's nothing to say. I can't convey to you I can't convey the truth to you in words. It's impossible. And the very second a word leaves my mouth and it enters your mind, it becomes something else entirely anyway. And thankfully, I don't have to. I don't want anything from you. I'm not here to convince you of anything. I don't want you to believe a single word that I'm saying. I just want you to know that there's something else that's possible for you. That's it. And what you do with that is up to you. My hope is that in some way, it helps you drop the resistance. Helps you just drop the resistance. Just let the wall down for like a second. Just to be here, to be who you are. To know that that's enough. Now, the reason why I've shared both of these experiences with you is because they were both the same experience. On my knees in the chapel in the hospital, experiencing absolute powerlessness, dealing with the potential loss of my daughter, and that moment of clarity, it's all the same thing. You see, we create the difference. We create the distinction. We compartmentalize life. We have one experience be something that's desirable and something that we want to move toward, and then we have another experience be something that we want to avoid at all costs. You see, but the truth is, it's all the same experience. In that moment when I had that clarity and I could experience what this was really about, and in that moment when I was on my knees in pain, that was the same moment. Same thing. Same experience. Just being addressed in very unique ways. You see, there is no doubt that there is an organizing principle or energy that is the root cause of everything. How many of you can get that? Raise your hands if you get that. There is something that is at the root of everything that is happening. Okay? There's something that's at the root of it all. Just look at the fact that your parents had sex. I mean, if that wasn't a miracle, then I don't know what is. Have you met your parents? I mean, can you imagine that conversation? Sweetheart, the newspaper's just not doing it for me. What do you think? Maybe we can cuddle? In a very awkward way that your father would probably approach that conversation. The one time it happened. Because it only happened once. We can't even begin to fathom it happening more than once. So that one fateful night when both of your parents were in the mood, you came into existence. You. Think about that. You, as you are here. The potential, the possibility, the expression, every single detail that is you, that you've been trying to change, that you've been trying to improve, that you've been apologizing for. You came into existence. A unique expression of divinity was born as a result of that one night that nobody wants to acknowledge happened. You came into existence. The way you think, the way you feel, the way you live, the way you look, you. In all of your perfection, every detail was born perfect. And every detail is still unfolding perfectly. Now, for some of you, that's a pretty bold statement, because you're like, well, Panache, Desai, you are not with me when my face is in the fridge between the hours of 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. in the morning. I don't feel pretty perfect then when I'm stuffing my face with Grater's ice cream and then topping it off with a coating of Skyline chili. I don't feel pretty perfect in those moments when I'm stuffing my face with that raspberry chocolate chip that is just heavenly. And of course, it's in that moment when you need to remember. See, it's not when we're here. It's not when we're here. It's in the moments when you have a hard time being with yourself that you need to remember. Because every other relationship is determined by the relationship that you're having with yourself. Remember I said we were living in a simulation. You're the source of that simulation. How you are with you determines how you are with every other person. Your evolution and liberation is the evolution and liberation of us all. Like you are Neo from the Matrix. If you haven't seen the Matrix, watch it. If you don't like movies like that, watch Kung Fu Panda. I don't care, just watch something. Either way, you'll get it. So here you are, this perfect creation, down to the way you look, down to the way you think, down to the way you feel. And when I mean perfect creation, that means the trauma, the abuse, the pain, the rage, the addiction, everything, all of it. I'm not talking about just the parts that you can stand or that you put on display. I'm talking about all of it. Every single aspect of you is perfect. Every single aspect of you was designed perfectly. by you. Take a breath. It's a big statement for most of you. Some of you are nudging your spouses right now. See, I told you. I've been telling you for 20 years. Thank you, Panache, Desai. So, we're here to remember. We're just here to remember. And we're here to cultivate an inclusive relationship with ourselves. You know, the sad thing, if there is a sad thing, I don't know that there's a sad thing, but if there's let's just pretend that this is real. The sad thing is that you're kinder to strangers than you are to yourself. You have no problem loving somebody else. Most of you in this room would give anything to support another person in the midst of their pain. However, we have excluded ourselves from that love. We've excluded ourselves from that love, from that same love that we can give to another person. We can't extend that same compassion and empathy and love to ourselves. When the truth is, we're the only person that needs it. You know, when I first started traveling and speaking, I realized that the only person that needed to hear what I was saying was myself. And when I listened, my life got better. That's how I knew it worked. That's when I knew I was onto something. Wait a minute, this is good. This is good. Like, wow. And we're the same way. Like, someone can come to you with like the hardest problem or the hardest situation ever, and you'll be able to, in that moment, deliver exactly what it is that they need. Well, how is that? Because you are a unique expression of divinity. You are a unique expression of divinity. And it's time to stop making your uniqueness wrong. It's time to stop making your uniqueness wrong. You are weird for a reason. It's time to embrace the fact that you are weird. And be your own unique brand of weirdness. Because that's what the world needs. You only suffer and struggle when you're trying to be like everybody else. You suffer and struggle when you are trying to be like every other human being. Why? Because you are not like every other human being. You can only ever be you. And at some point, that has to be good enough. At some point, you being who you are has to be good enough. Until it is, you'll never be able to access the love, the health, the connection, the intimacy. You'll never be able to access the peace. You'll never be able to access everything that you want more than anything in this world. And again, I'm going to say it, the saddest thing of all is that you are denying yourself the experience that you want more than anything. Because you are disqualifying yourself from it. You are disqualifying yourself from your own love. You're disqualifying yourself from abundance, from health, from vitality, from connection, from intimacy. You are disqualifying yourself in every moment through your unwillingness to finally, once and for all, accept who you are. When I wrote Soul Signature, I wrote it not to get people to love themselves, because that to me was a bit too much of a leap. But I thought, well, even if I can just get them to accept themselves, that would be a good start. You know? like when their anger arises, if I can maybe just help them accept the fact that their anger is there, that might be a good start. Instead of denying it's there, repressing it, suppressing it, feeling guilty or ashamed about the fact that it's there, maybe if we can just accept it. And if we can do that with sadness, or we can do that with fear, and we can do that with guilt and shame and everything else in the book, then maybe by the end of it, they'll be able to be a little bit more peaceful with themselves. Just a little bit more peaceful. Soul signature was like dipping your toe into a beautiful warm bath. It was specifically drawn for you with the right medicine that you need. And gradually, as you move through the book, you were able to get in. By the end of the book, you were fully in theory. Some of you are going to reread the book in your bathtubs, just so you can take a selfie and prove to yourself that you were able to be fully immersed in the work. So this thing called life is happening as you are. It's happening as you are. The whole thing is happening as you are. Life is as you are. The whole thing. How you are on the inside is what you experience on the outside. How you are on the inside is what you experience on the outside. One of my favorite attractions at the fair in London was the Hall of Mirrors. And I loved it because I knew it was me, but regardless of the mirror that I was staring into, like my body would change, or my head would shrink, or my legs would get longer. You know? How many of you have seen the Hall of Mirrors? Yeah, well, you're living inside of one. Just so you know. You are only ever looking in the mirror. You are only ever looking in the mirror. That's the only thing that's happening here. There is nothing else that's happening. And you are either embracing what you see, or you are rejecting what you see. But it's all you. In oneness, life is as you are. In oneness, life is as you are. So then wisdom is to look in the mirror and embrace the reflection. And the more you can look in the mirror and embrace the reflection, the more those mirrors begin to smash. Until eventually all that's left is light. So we've got Thanksgiving coming up soon. It's a button pushing convention. They're like ninjas. They know how to take you out with one word. Maybe two. 7th grade. They can reduce you to tears faster than any other human being. They know your deepest, darkest secrets. So it's the perfect opportunity to put into practice this very teaching. What if we could actually get to a place where we could be grateful for it all? Regardless of how it felt. Regardless of how it feels. What if we could actually bring a sense of appreciation to the thoughts? What if we could bring a sense of appreciation to our anger? A sense of appreciation to our depression? A sense of appreciation to our anxiety? What if we could actually bring a sense of appreciation to the ex-husband or the ex-wife or the stepchildren? What if we could bring a sense of appreciation to everything in life? What would happen? Well, maybe if we could actually get to the point where we could bring a sense of appreciation to every single thing that we're experiencing, the simulation would crash, the game would end, and you would see the truth. What if in truth there isn't anything to resist at all? If life is happening as you are, and you created this whole thing for you to wake up in the midst of it, then what is there to resist? How much time, effort, and energy do you waste every day fighting against what is, thinking that in some way you're going to win? when you are not. You are never going to win that battle. You see, life isn't going to bring you what you want, but it's always going to bring you exactly what it is that you need. It's going to bring you that partner that you need to love yourself. It's going to bring you that boss that you need to love yourself. It's going to bring you the employee that you need to love yourself. It's going to bring you every circumstance and situation and diagnosis and illness and disease that you need in order for you to love yourself. Because in that moment, when you can finally love yourself, you deserve more, and then you can receive more. And that's how the game works. Regardless of what's happening in your life, it's not a punishment. Regardless of what's playing out in this moment in your life, the struggle, the challenge, whatever it is happening for you. You created it for you. It's time to meet it with an open heart and to be grateful for it. Because even though in the moment it may not feel great and it may not feel like this is what you want, the soul has no preference. Your soul is neither for nor against anything. The soul is the silent witness of your life. And when you can exist through the vantage point of neutrality, you begin to tap into the transcendent nature of who you are. At that point, you stop wasting your time trying to change the world. And you finally wake up with a smile on your face, less stressed out and overwhelmed. You're able to meet life as it is, recognizing that the fact that life is unfolding in the way that it is means that it's serving some purpose that maybe you can't even see in the moment. But there is nothing in this world that's a mistake. There is nothing that's happening by accident. And you just didn't happen to come into being. It's time to wake up and value who you are. Because the universe, all of creation and all of life is evolving because of who you are. In the absence of you, we would not be waking up. In the absence of you, we would not be evolving. In the absence of you, we would not be maturing as a species. And yet you think such little of yourself. And you waste so much of your time every day trying to be some other version of you. Well, if only you knew who you were, you wouldn't do that anymore. You would celebrate all of it. Because you would be able to understand the greater evolutionary purpose and function behind every single thing. There is a perfection and a precision with which life is unfolding in every moment. Down to like a millionth of a second. Just think about in your life how many situations or scenarios wouldn't have happened had you not shown up at the exact moment that you did, to be there at the exact time, to meet the exact person that you were supposed to meet. It's down to a millionth of a second how precise this thing is. And yet you question grace. You question God. You question the perfection of life. And you continue to hold on to this false notion of suffering, thinking that in doing so, you are contributing to something of value. Well, suffering is inauthentic. It is not who you are. It is not natural. And that's why people go to bed absolutely exhausted at the end of the day, because you are pretending to be somebody other than the divine being that you are. Well, how about we stop pretending? How about we finally have the courage to be who we are as we are for ourselves? Whether somebody else can ever get that or not doesn't matter. You are looking for love on a planet of people that don't love themselves. How can they love you? How can they meet you? They can't meet themselves. They can't be with who they are. They have no appreciation for who they are. How can they even have a moment of saying, I see you? Everybody is lost in their own personal drama, believing that it's real. And it isn't. It's a distraction. You are wasting your time. And by virtue of the fact that you are wasting your time, you are wasting the most precious commodity of all. Any one of you in this room can go and make $1 million tomorrow, but you can't get a single second of your life back. And that clock is ticking. We are living for all of the wrong things. And I can tell you that because being famous and being successful and having a lot of money doesn't bring you an ounce of happiness. It doesn't bring you an ounce of peace. Every promise, every carrot that's dangled in front of you as an answer and a solution is a distraction. It keeps you looking outside. It keeps you looking to something outside of you as the solution. And of course, then you get it, and you get it, and you get it, and you get it, and you get it. But no matter how much you get it, it's never enough. So how about we stop trying? How about we finally just relax into who we are and stop playing the game? Because it's an unwinnable game. You will never be enough for your mother. Your mother loved you to the degree to which she could. Just move on. Just move on. There's nothing to understand. There's nothing to figure out. There's nothing that you have to do about that. You chose your mother. Hello? You designed her. It's a simulation. You wrote the software. Let's move on. How about we move on? Instead of spending 50 years trying to become some version that she's going to love, let's just move on. Most of you are still seeking the approval of parents that aren't even in bodies anymore. They're not even here. They're not even here. And yet you wake up every day still seeking the approval of this person that is not even physical. At some point we have to move on. So where did it all kind of get lopsided? Well, it became lopsided when someone in their infinite wisdom said, I think, therefore I am. It's the most stupid phrase ever spoken into the world. I think, therefore I am. Horrible. No bueno. That was horrible. I think, therefore I am. In that moment, the mind became more important than being. We put the cart before the horse. And then we're wondering why we're doing donuts. Because we put the cart before the horse, we put the mind before the soul. We have made the mind more important than our being. The truth is, I am, therefore I think. Somebody has to be aware of the fact that you're thinking in order to know that you're thinking. In the absence of awareness, how could you ever know that you were thinking? And then what did we do? We created an entire transformational model based off an insanity. Everything has become about the mind. You have to change your thoughts. You have to change your beliefs. You have to stick Post-it notes everywhere. In the bathroom. Underneath the visor. On the ceiling. You have single-handedly made 3M a wonderfully successful company. On behalf of 3M shareholders, we thank you. Thank you to all the spiritual people that watch The Secret. The Post-it note everywhere. How many of you, honest, full transparency, How many of you even forgot that you put a Post-it note somewhere and then all of a sudden you remembered it was there one day? Like you just saw it and you're like, oh my God, I didn't even remember that that was there. And it's there. And of course the Post-it note says, be present. And this is what we do. This is what we do, right? be present. So what we've done is we have empowered the mind. Empowering the mind is empowering the instrument of separation. Your perception's been programmed since the moment you've been born. Your perception is programmed every day through the media. The media tells you who to like, who to be afraid of, what to do, what to wear, what to buy, where to go, what to eat, what to consume. You see, you've been conditioned to become a unit of consumption. First, you were conditioned to become a unit of production. How many of you had Depression-era parents? Raise your hands. Yeah. So your value, those of you, raise your hands, Depression-era parents, congratulations. Your value is based in what you produce. If you don't produce, you have no value. Do you get that? Okay. So for those of you that had Depression-era parents, your value is tied up in what you produce. If you don't produce, you innately as a human being have no value. Now here's the problem. You become a great unit of production, but your consumption just becomes more luxurious. It becomes more expensive. Whereas before you were happy with the portobello burger, now you need the portobello burger with the truffle and the demi-glaze and the whatever else, the special pickle that you can only get from Siberia. Your consumption becomes more expensive. Thank you. And it's a giant trap. And what's happened is you're in prison. You're in prison. You're in a prison of your own making. As spiritual people, you have a slightly upgraded prison. You have a nicer toilet seat. And maybe your toilet paper is slightly nicer. It's not that one-ply stuff, it's the shaman stuff. But you're still in prison. And you're in prison because what you've done is created an identity. You've created a persona. You've created this false aspect of you. Because in some way, through the conditioning and through experience in life, you were led to believe that you're not enough. How many of you received that messaging? You are not enough. Raise your hands. Yeah, you are not enough. You are not enough. It's like ringtone central today. I like it. You are not enough. That's the messaging that we receive. And then we wonder why the suicide rate is increasing. We wonder why depression is increasing. Because human beings are fundamentally being told verbally and non-verbally that who they are isn't enough. Well, eventually, even though it's a lie, if enough people tell you that you are not enough, you will believe them. You will believe them. Okay? So, how do we get out of prison? How many of you would like to break out of jail like El Chapo broke out of that Mexican prison? Raise your hands. Raise your hands. We're about to El Chapo your soul. We're about to free that soul from that prison. We're going to dig that tunnel. How in God's name did we dig that tunnel and then have a motorcycle or some kind of a motorcycle? Now that's gangster. That's like another level escape. A motorcycle, and then you're zipping through a motorcycle through a tunnel to freedom. This is what we have to do with your soul. How many of you are ready for that? Would you like that? Okay, all right. So we have to break your soul free. Okay? Because right now, your soul isn't steering the ship. Your mind is. Okay? Or your emotions are. Or I should say more accurately, the avoidance of your emotions. Okay? I don't want you to be allergic to anybody. I want you to be able to be in a room with any human being and be in your power and shine brightly in the face of whatever. Because nobody should have that much influence and power over you. Nobody should be able to alter your state of being to that degree to where you feel uncomfortable or insecure in the presence of them. That's all over. Okay? Are you ready? All right, let's break you free, people. Close your eyes. This is wonderful. So, here's where we get stuck. The first place we get stuck is in our emotions. Okay, so while in the transformational space we've had this preoccupation with the mind, I realized a long time ago that it actually had nothing to do with the mind, had everything to do with the emotional layer. Okay, so just visualize this accordingly. Okay, or just follow along. It's not complicated. I'm going to Harry Potter and Hogwarts this whole thing for you all. Okay, so just picture that there is a circle. That circle is your soul. Okay, not complicated. All right, are you with me? Okay, good. Now imagine that there's a circle around that circle. Okay, that circle is your emotional layer. Okay, these are all of the emotions that you won't allow yourself to feel. Okay, it's called density. Okay, then there's a circle around that circle. That circle is the mind. And then there's a circle around that circle, and that's the body. So as we explore transformation, we have to address transformation at the level of emotion. Why? Because the emotional layer is informing the mental layer, which is then informing the physical layer. So when I first started working with people, and we looked at illnesses and diseases and what was happening on a physical level, there was always some emotional root cause. Always. Okay? The body is energy. Everything is energy. Everything has a vibration and a frequency. Every organ has its own vibration and frequency. So then what's disrupting it? Well, it's not the mind. It's that which we are unwilling to feel, that which we are unwilling to be available for. So in my cultural heritage, we call them samskaras. And the translation of a samskara is an imprint. It's an imprint. So just imagine that we have this black box, like they do in airplanes. And this black box is recording everything. It's recording everything. Everything, all the time. It's on, it's recording everything. That's the unconscious. Or the subconscious, whatever you want to say. And these imprints constitute the root cause of separation that we feel in life. Okay? So it's entirely possible to wake up tomorrow morning in love with yourself, in love with everyone, and in love with life. And it's entirely possible because, by the way, that's your natural state of being. It takes no effort to be that version of you. Okay? So, let's address what's there on the emotional level. Just place your attention at the base of your spine and just breathe and relax. And what we're going to do is just embrace our anger, frustration, rage with gratitude. We're going to literally extend the feeling of gratitude to our anger, to our frustration, to our rage. I'm so grateful for my anger, for my frustration and my rage, because it served to keep me safe in some way. However, I don't need it anymore. I don't need anger and rage and frustration to feel safe in this world anymore. Just breathe and relax. Maintain that awareness at the base of the spine. All right, well then there's depression and sadness. And in the majority of instances, depression and sadness was modeled to us by our mothers. Rage was modeled to us by our fathers. Sometimes it's the other way around. It doesn't matter how the modeling happened, we just need to be free of it. Holding on to depression and holding on to rage isn't serving you. So we're going to lovingly extend that same feeling of appreciation and gratitude to that sadness, to that depression, to that grief. We're grateful for it. I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful for your presence. I'm so grateful for the experience of you. I'm so grateful for you. Just give your thanks to it. Give your thanks for it. It served you. It served you. And then finally, we're going to extend that same gratitude to our fear. And in particular, our survival-based fear. Okay? And we're so grateful for this survival-based fear. We're just grateful for it. Just have a sense of appreciation for it. Thank you for keeping me safe. Thank you for helping me get to this moment where I can remember who I really am. Thank you for helping me get to this moment. I've been waiting for this moment to arrive my whole life. Thank you for helping me make it here safe and sound. I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful for you. Then there's your ego. And the ego's role is to defend and protect the parts of you that are powerless and hopeless. So we're just going to lovingly bring that same energy of gratitude to our egos. Thank you. Thanks for protecting the parts of myself that I had yet to develop the courage to face. Thank you. Thanks for protecting the parts of myself that I had yet to develop the courage to face. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you. And then there's the addiction. And everyone has one. And you need one because it's how you cope with the stress of survival. It's how you cope. You need to have a release from constantly being in survival. So we're grateful for that. Whatever form that took for you, whatever flavor it was, whatever it was, we're grateful for it. Thank you for the addiction. And then we're just going to give our thanks to the unconscious completely in its entirety. I'm so grateful for everything that I'm not aware of, everything that I have yet to cultivate the ability to see. I'm so grateful for this vast, expansive power that remains untapped inside of me, that I'm now ready to have a relationship with. I'm grateful for it. And just continue to lovingly bring a sense of appreciation to all that you are, for all that you are. I'm grateful for the mind, grateful for the beliefs. I'm grateful for the guilt and the shame and the unworthiness. I'm grateful for all of the ways in which I disqualified myself from my own love. grateful for all of the moments where I believed that there was something wrong with me, where I believed that I was the problem. Where I believed it was my fault, where I believed I hurt somebody, where I believed somebody hurt me. I'm grateful for everything that I've personalized in my life. Grateful for everything that I've made mean something about me. Just continue to bring that sense of appreciation and gratitude to everything and for everything. Because regardless of how it felt, regardless of whether we can understand it or not, it simply just contributed to you being able to be here right now. It simply just contributed to you being able to be here right now. That's all. That's all it's about. I'm grateful for it all. All of it. Everything. Every single thing. The whole thing. Okay, just take some deep breaths. And you can gently, when you're ready, you can open your eyes and bring your awareness back. You see, we're wasting our time. We're trying to understand things, we're trying to figure things out. We're trying to change things, we're trying to improve things, we're trying to fix things. We're wasting our time. All we really need to do is just be grateful for them, whatever it is. Just need to be grateful for it. How many of you had something happen in your life and you just thought, I don't know how I'm going to get over this or get through this, but you did, right? It's funny how that happens, right? Yeah. Somebody leaves you, somebody does something that's mean or hurtful or harmful, and something happens, it doesn't feel good, it doesn't feel pleasant, maybe they attack you, whatever it is. And it happens, and then you're like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. It always feels deeply personal, it feels devastating, it feels like you're never going to recover from it. And yet you do. Life continues to happen. You know, one of my favorite lines from Soul Signature is and I'm going to butcher it, but whatever. You know, the turmoil of our 20s isn't the same thing in our 70s. You know, what impacted us in our 20s and the significance that we place on something in our 20s is very different than the way we meet it in our 70s. You know, it's like in time, things don't matter quite as much. You know, they're not as meaningful, they're not as significant, you know, they're not as impactful, right? But in the moment, it's like, oh my God, like my boyfriend dumped me. Let me Instagram about this right now. You know, it's like the end of the world. Like, it's the end of the world. No one's ever going to love me, you know, and he was so perfect, and everything was perfect about him, and I wrote all the qualities that I wanted him to embody on my vision board and on every post-it note, and he left me. He's gone. I love vision boards. I do. No, I really do. I just want you to actually be able to receive what's on the vision board. Okay, that's the difference. The reason why you're not able to receive what's on the vision board is because you haven't dealt with what's inside of you. You see? And if our energy isn't freed up to receive, then no matter how much we pray and no matter how much we intend and no matter how much we ask, there's no place for the universe to put it. Your house is already full. You know? And it's full because you've taken your anger hostage, locked it in a room and thrown away the key for 50 years. There's a whole room just dedicated to your anger in there, you know, that you won't let out. So what we're doing is making the space, ending our resistance, being a little bit more compassionate towards ourselves, with ourselves, being a little softer. You know? We don't need to understand who we are. We don't need to know who we are in order to love who we are. We can just love who we are. You know? How many of you have noticed that when you're in love, there isn't a problem in the world? Even though every one of your friends is throwing a red flag in every direction. You're just like, oh, it's so dreamy. It's the best thing that ever happened to me. And everyone in your life is like throwing the red flags, like, this is not going to end well. And you're just like, oh, it makes me feel so special. See, when you're in love, there's not a problem with anything, right? Somehow, even the most random thing becomes perfect. It just becomes perfect. And all you can see is the perfection. Well, how about we can see that in ourselves? How about we cultivate that for ourselves? Because there are no red flags as it relates to you loving you. There aren't any. There are none. You know, you're always with you. I mean, you're always with you. I mean, you're going to leave here and be with you. Yeah. Everywhere you go, there you are. You're with you all the time. But you won't love the one you're with. You won't love the one you're with all the time. And it can be that simple. Wow, like, okay, I'm feeling frustrated. Okay, let me be grateful for this. Okay. Oh, wow, like I feel lonely. Okay, let me be grateful for this. Okay, I'm thinking thoughts. Okay, great, let me be grateful for the thoughts. You know? Just gradually, micro moments of just compassion. Not these huge miracles. They're completely unsustainable. You know, after I had that experience of this vast presence, I had to do the laundry for 19 years, or 16 years, or whatever it is. You know, people think that it's about that peak experience. It isn't. Then you have to do the laundry. You have to go through everything that you have to go through to actually embody that awareness and that potential. I've only finally just landed at the age of about 41. But it's been like the most intense 41 years of my life. Yeah, like intense, like literally. I mean, I've had to go through every single aspect of myself and meet it. And that's something that most people never have the courage to do. So I want you to not waste your time. You know, don't threaten to live a life. Live a life. Be here, you know. Love yourself. You know, and I know we use that word a lot and it's become like a throwaway. You know, oh, go love yourself. Okay, well now you know what that means. To love yourself means to be with you. To be with you in your anger, to be with you in your sadness, to be with you in your fear. To love is to be with. When you're able to be with another person, you're loving them. Nobody in your life needs you to talk to them. They don't want to hear anything that you have to say. You've been saying it for 30 years, and they just don't care what you have to say. That is not what they want from you. They want a hug. That's all they want. They don't want a teaching. They don't want to be taught anything. They don't need to understand anything. If anything, we all understand far too much. What is it that people really want? They want connection. You know, I watch a lot of Disney movies now. And I love Disney movies. I even actually subscribe for Disney Plus because I love it so much. Because I love Star Wars and Marvel as well. So at that point, it's fantastic. I like something for my kids, something for me, the kid in me, and it's just wonderful. Everybody's happy. And there's a movie, I'm not sure it's a Disney movie, but it's Trolls. And I love Trolls. And the reason why I love Trolls is because they hug each other. They have an alarm that goes off every hour, and regardless of where they are, they stop what they're doing and they hug each other. Just imagine if we did that. Let's do it right now. Hug each other. Let's just do it right now. Let's just be trolls. Once you've hugged each other, you can have a seat. It's very contagious, right? So they don't have a reminder to affirm how great they are or to affirm how great the other person is. It's hugging each other. You know, like in a world where we have social media, we've become more disconnected than ever before. We have this false perception of connection. But how about we be humans? How about we be human? How about we actually hug each other? How about that? Instead of just scrolling through someone's timeline and liking something. You know, let's actually connect with each other in a meaningful way. Just that alone has the capacity to transform your experience of being a human being. And there's tons of scientific data behind it. Just Google it. So, just the simple act of hugging, how it shifts your state of being and prolongs your life, right? So, everybody has the capacity to do that. You know, the reason why spirituality isn't given the relevance that it deserves is because we're superstitious. You know? So basically, instead of being angry, you're not just angry, like Satan has taken possession of your faculties, and a demon has entered you and is making you say and do things that you wouldn't ordinarily do. Why? Because your neighbor's black cat was crossing your path when you were walking across the street, and Satan happened to be in that cat, because of course Satan was hanging out in that cat, just waiting for you, because Satan knew that you were coming, and all of a sudden that just jumped into you. And then you were like, ugh. And then you started acting weird. Basically, you just became very angry and erratic. And of course, that isn't what happened at all. But we're very superstitious. You know? We have empowered things that don't make sense. Okay? We've made things real that aren't real. Everything is you. Every angel, every demon, every benevolent thing, every malevolent thing, every saint, every sinner, every single thing is inside of you. There is nothing outside of you. Not one thing. And even people who connect to things are connecting with aspects of themselves. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Take a breath. It's all you. So where are you going? You're taking the show with you everywhere that you go. This is why this is so important. This is why it's important to wake up. Because if it's all you, then that means that right now, in this moment, you have the capacity to set us all free. Unless it's all you, that can't ever happen. As long as you continue to make it about the world, the state of the world, what's happening in the world, it's about the world, it's about what's outside of me, it's the news cycle, which just basically keeps you off balance. That's all it does. As long as it's about all of that, you'll be a victim. But the very second you're willing to be accountable and responsible for all of it, then you're free. And I mean all of it. Everything. You can't have oneness any other way. If you want to live in oneness, then you have to be accountable and responsible for everything. Because in oneness, life is as you are. Do you get that? Do you think you could give it a try? Are you willing to try it? You are responsible and accountable for everything. I'll prove it to you. Your mother-in-law comes over for Thanksgiving. I don't know why my son married you. Your meatloaf is always so dry. It's an insult to my senses that I have to eat it. Now that Debbie, wow, she was a good one. Her meatloaf was so great. And she has spent, since last year, honing precisely what it is that she has to say about your cooking in order to impact you in the way that she has the ability to impact you. Now, in her ability to impact you, she can only impact what's inside of you. Take a breath. In her ability to impact you, she can only impact what's inside of you already. But what do? We make it about her. It's her fault. She's miserable. She hasn't had sex in 30 years. And we just start this whole, procession of thoughts and all of these things. Instead of in that moment, just recognizing that what's been activated is inside of us and being available for that, we miss the moment. We miss the moment. So the key to being free is being accountable and responsible for everything, because if it's not inside of you, you can't feel it. Nobody's making you angry. Nobody's that good. They're just simply reminding you of the anger that you already have inside of you. And when they do, say thank you. Nobody's making you sad. They're just reminding you of the tears that you were unwilling to cry. So when something makes you sad, like when Simba's dad dies in The Lion King, cry. Whatever that is, say thank you. And here's why. Because the more we are being freed of that content, the more we are being empowered to live as presence in this world. The more we are being empowered to live as presence in this world. If you want to have a spiritual retreat, take the most annoying person in the world away with you for a week and stay with them in the same room and let them push every button that you have inside of you. Feel everything that there is to feel. Be grateful for every single thing until you can walk out of that room like Wonder Woman. Kaplow! That's freedom. Not, I'm going to put myself in a golden shield. Archangel Michael, please protect me. Saint Germain, envelop me in your violet flame. I'm walking into the lair of my mother-in-law. Angels, sweet baby Jesus, and anyone else who's listening, help me now. This is what you do. When all we really have to do is just feel whatever there is to feel inside of us and be grateful for the fact that we're feeling it, because the fact that we're feeling it means that we're alive. You won't feel anything when you're dead, I promise. You can have a break then from feeling. But until then, get used to experiencing what you have to experience. And understand that the experience itself isn't the problem. That in every moment you have a choice. And that choice is either to resist what is or to accept what is. And not only to just accept it, but to be grateful for it. Because everything is setting you free. Every single thing is setting you free. We are walking each other home. Everybody is playing their part. Everybody is serving their purpose. Every single thing is necessary for you to wake up, to become fully conscious, to be who you are, to be fully embodied, and to live as a unique expression of divinity that you were born to live. How about that? So if you're going to use a label of being spiritual, then have that label become so inclusive that we don't need to define ourselves, don't need to define who we are as that anymore. Make love so inclusive that we don't have to use the word. Make God so inclusive that everything becomes God, so then we don't have to define what God is or who God is. Make everything so inclusive and so expansive that at that point you will begin to embrace your limitless nature, and you begin to see and perceive and experience your limitless nature all the time, everywhere that you go. That's liberation. That's freedom. That's why we're here. And that potential and that possibility is available to all of us. Every single one of us. So I'd love to take some questions in the event that you can talk. Otherwise, we'll just hug. Yeah. It's a very...
Hi there. I'm sorry. Hi. Thank you very much. I'm Joe. It's nice to be here.
You're who?
Joe.
Chow.
Mary Joe.
Joe.
How about menorah, Mom?
I thought you said chow. I'm like,
Chow.
Like, hi, Chow. Hi, Joe.
Hi. It's many things struck a chord, so thank you. But the issue about just hugging, as simple as that. What if the person that just says, world, nobody, don't hug me, don't touch me?
Well, what do you think that means? What do you think they're really saying? Just breathe and be with the emotion. What is it that that person wants that they're unable to ask for?
Love.
Yeah. You know, I'll tell you something. When Celeste received her donor heart, it was done anonymously. I'll never know who that family was. So I just assumed that everybody's that family. Because I'll never be able to thank them for the gift that they gave me. So why don't we all just assume that everybody's God and act accordingly? Takes nothing. Changes everything. Yes, anyone else? Questions? Don't be shy. Yes, right there. I love the fact that you love the book so much. We were in the pre-talk warm-up party. There was a lot of enthusiasm around the book and the book clubs and the way in which you're all coming together. And some of you are ready to read it again and to start the whole journey again. So that makes my heart very happy. You know, when I write a book, I can't just write a book for the sake of writing a book. You know, it's really an expression of where I'm at, or my soul, or what's in my heart. And so, of course, it means the world when people resonate with something in the way that you all clearly have. So thank you. Yes?
I think the book resonated the practicality of you incorporating the day, morning, noon, and night. And it was especially the night contemplation that was most empowering in terms of the heartfelt energy in that part of the chapter. And I just so appreciate the way that you designed the book. So what was your intent in terms of displaying and encouraging the contemplation throughout the day?
So I'm basically a conscious disruptor. And I understand that human beings are creatures of habit. And so I didn't want to write a book. I wanted to write something that would disrupt how people read books. So instead of just writing something that you could read from cover to cover, I wanted to write something that you would have to make the effort to come to. And in making that effort, you were opening the doorway to the grace. And so for those people that were humble enough to follow the format every step of the way through, they received the greatest benefit by the end of the book. So it was designed specifically to meet you in life and to have your life become a living representation of the words on the page. So the morning exercise was something that you would carry through the day with you in your awareness, and it would live with you, right? Because too many books are just static, and it's like somebody speaking at us. And I wanted something that was engaging, that really disrupted our routine. Like, you had to take the time to read that 3 to 5 minute segment in the morning. You had to take the time to read that 3 to 5 minute segment in the afternoon and then in the evening. And it took something on your part to do it. But that something that it took created the opening for you to receive the support that you needed. Yeah. You're welcome. Yeah. So we meet 3 times a day for 33 days.
I had a question. Was your book based on, Elise, was your book based on your journaling? Was this the order of the obstacles that you went through?
No.
How did you come to the steps?
So I started with fear and I ended with love. And I took you on the journey from fear to love. So that's how we went through the journey like that. I started with fear and I ended with love. Because in the end, everything ends with love. But I threw you in the deep end with the first 7 chapters on purpose. Yeah. Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
My name's Kay.
Hi, Kay.
I was just wondering what you're holding in your hands.
These are prayer beads from the King of Kurdistan. I answered the question. It's called it was actually given to me by a friend, a very dear friend, and it's the most meaningful thing that anyone's ever given me. And actually in their culture, in their tradition, this is called the Shield of St. Michael. And it's really quite special. And so I was in a retreat and I was given this gift from the king.
Could you give us a coming attraction for the upcoming book that's due out in February?
There's a new book. And I'm very excited about this because for me, life has to happen before I can write something. Life has to happen. There has to be an evolution and a growth on my part before I can revisit a book. Especially a book, because writing a book takes so much vulnerability, so much courage. It's very cathartic. That's why most people never finish writing a book. Or they won't even start. They're just too confronted by the whole thing. So there's a new book coming out in February. It's called You Are Enough. And I'm very proud of that title. I can't wait to see what happens even when people see that title on a shelf and what their reaction's going to be. And it's about how we live in a constant state of connection. How can we in every moment live in a constant state of connection? How can we live in a constant state of alignment and harmony with life? And that's what that book is about. And it was born out of my own personal journey because as I had gone through my own process, I had become more and more transcendent. And the more transcendent I had become, the more unrelatable I had become, the more inaccessible I had become. And transcendence is very easy for me. Living in expanded states of consciousness comes naturally to me. It's as effortless as Michael Jordan playing basketball. I was just born that way. However, being embodied, being human, being available, being present is the hardest thing of all for me. And so gradually I got to a point in this transcendence where I literally had a choice. The choice was either leave my body, which is what happens when you stay in transcendence for too long, or start to come back down into my body. And I began the journey, and had I not had children, I probably would have chosen to leave my body. It's just called taking samadhi. When you leave, you can choose to leave. See, what you don't understand is at a certain point in your practice, you can just choose to leave your physical form. But I had children, and I wasn't done. And so I chose to start coming back into my body, meaning gathering this infinite energy and beginning to bring it back down into this form. And that process was necessary because we're entering the most important 10-year window of human history. We have 10 years to unwind everything that's unconscious on this planet. Some people say 5. Okay, I'm going to be slightly more generous and say 10. Okay, the energy that got us here cannot get us the rest of the way, right? How many of you can see that? Okay, like there's no way, right? So we're living inside of the most important 10-year window. And in this 10-year window, people are going to be waking up and remembering who they are more than any other point in human history. So I'm going to be very busy. It's going to be a very busy time. Millions and millions of people are just going to spontaneously popping like popcorn all over the world. All of a sudden they're going to be living in fear and separation. Next thing they're going to wake up and go, oh my God, I love everybody, I love myself. What's happened? You know, with no sense of a fixed identity. They're just going to be like wandering blobs of bliss. So I want to be here for that. And when I was going through this journey of moving through all these layers, so since that experience I wrote about in Soul Signature, I've been going through layers of the collective experience. Okay, both personally, but when you finish everything on a personal level, you then address everything on a collective level. So not only have I been doing the laundry on the part of myself, but I've been doing the laundry on the part of all human life. And collapsing and finishing everything inside of myself. Okay, and that's the journey. The finality of that was then coming back into being embodied. And bringing the totality of that realization into an actualized embodied form. Self-realization is only the first part of the journey, right? But what we have to do is actualize that potential. You know, we have to embody it. We have to be here in order for it to be expressed. And so, You Are Enough is the book, the journal, the blueprint that we wish we'd received when we were born. It literally takes people through every single step of what it means to live in connection, why we don't live in connection, and I've actually also created a boot camp to accompany it. And I chose to create a boot camp to accompany it because about 5 years ago, when I did that Oprah interview, I was not in great shape. I was not healthy at all. I enlisted the help of a sergeant from the army who was a combat veteran medic. And I did that on purpose. I knew that no matter what he did to me, I wasn't going to die. He was going to administer CPR, I was going to be fine, right? And there are some days, quite honestly, when you're working out where you feel like you are going to die, and I'm like, okay, no, Sarge has got me, I'm going to be okay. He's going to carry me back to I'm going to get the help that I need. So, going through that journey, I always felt the support of his hand. And no matter what I was going through, no matter what I was feeling, no matter what I was experiencing, he was there. He would work out next to me. He would run with me. He would drop the juices off in the morning. And he would help me detox and get in shape and get stronger. And I think I was in peak, I was so fit. It was unbelievable in that window of time. And that's the blessing of a boot camp. It's a fully immersive experience that we commit to. The level of commitment for that is beyond just doing a regular program or, following a diet. I mean, you really commit to it, okay? And so there's a You Are Enough boot camp that I've created. And I've been waiting to create one. And actually this was the right time to do it. So the book will be accompanied by that boot camp. And it's an immersion into everything that we have to go through. And it's a shortcut, of course, because I like saving people time, to where we can really embody living in connection, which is what we all want. Living in absolute connection. I'm talking about no separation anymore, where there's no longer any difference between what's inside of you and what's outside of you. It's completely congruent or coherent. So that's where we're headed. And that's why the new book, and that's why now, at this point in human history. Because just imagine if we could actually get that we were enough. How much stuff would you stop doing immediately? Be honest. Like if you got that you were enough, how much stuff could you immediately stop doing on a daily basis? Because you're doing it for other people. Right? I mentor CEOs of companies and businesses, and I always say to them, I said, you know that your first business is always about proving something to you about yourself. You know, it's always that. I like them when they're on their second company, because it's typically about being of service at that point. They've worked out everything egoically in the first one. They've attained every level of success and material success, and they're still miserable. That's when I love them. That's when I love them. That's when they're ready to listen. You know, Panache, I got the jet, I got the promotion. I'm miserable. I can't play any more golf. This is horrible. Please help me. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's change the world. So it's about how we get to this point of being enough. But that enoughness comes from the truth of who we are, from connecting with the essential self and living from that place. So it was a very long-winded answer, but anyway. The book is called You Are Enough. Yeah. I'll come back when it comes out. How about that? Any other questions or ways I can support you? Yes.
Hi. Oh my gosh.
Hi.
I'm a little
Somebody
loud, I
had
guess.
their Red Bulls this afternoon.
Honestly, I'm naturally like this.
I love this.
Hate to say that. So if you have been going through an awakening for a while now, and you're saying there's this 10-year time frame, if you're being generous.
10-year time frame as it relates to humanity.
Right, for humanity. What are your suggestions for the collective awakening, people who are collectively awakening?
My suggestion is don't panic.
I'm not panicked at all. I'm actually super thrilled about it. But I'm
Well,
what if you feel a calling with a group? We have a spiritual meeting of the minds book club. We get together. This is what we do. And how do we progress forward in the awakening collectively, I guess, is my question to you.
So how we progress forward is, first of all, by realizing the purpose of our suffering and realizing the purpose of our journey. And by cultivating a sense of appreciation for everything that we've gone through and everything we are going through. At that point, we cultivate a freedom, liberation. So really, as much as it's a team sport that you guys are playing, it's only as good as who you are as individuals. And you need to focus on who you are individually and bringing love and empathy and compassion and acceptance to who you are at the level of your individuality. Once it's present there, everything else will take care of itself from the overflow. So you don't need to give, you just give. It just happens, right? So in your little collective that you have there, let's just call it Gryffindor, what you're going to do is focus individually on bringing a sense of gratitude to every aspect of yourself. Okay? That's the game, actually, for all of you. Can we do that? Let's try it, right? How about we just try it? How about we try an experiment? Okay? So, the experiment is let's just say a week, right? For 1 week, just appreciate everything. For 1 week, appreciate everything. Can you try that? Just try it. Don't take my word for it. Just appreciate everything. Every thought, every feeling, every global situation, Everything, everything. Appreciate everything just for 1 week. Okay? Try it. Just try it. And then watch what happens. All right? Once you get through the first week, if you like it, do it more. Do it all the time. Okay? But just start with a week. Literally, like, appreciate, and I'm talking about everything. Somebody's mean to you, say thank you. You're feeling sad, say thank you. You're feeling angry, say thank you. And the other thing is, please don't make it about anyone else. When you're angry, you're experiencing the anger that's inside of you. Be accountable and responsible. All right, so I'm going to add a caveat to what I just said. Be grateful for everything and be accountable and responsible for everything that you are thinking and feeling and experiencing. Understand that it has nothing to do with anyone else. Let's crash the simulation. Let's end the video game in Cleveland, Ohio. Has to end somewhere. We may as well end it in Cleveland, Ohio. Westlake, nonetheless. Anything else? Any other questions? Yes, yes.
Hi, a couple things. My son, I told you about the experience that he's in prison.
Mm-hmm.
He says he wants to write a book called The Ashram. They never let me leave.
The ashram, they never let me leave.
Yes, that's...
I like that.
Yeah.
What people don't realize is everyone in this room is in prison too.
It kind of reminded me.
The only difference is that they actually now know that they can leave.
Right. But I had a question. I noticed that you've mentioned, and I've heard you say it before, when you say focus on your lower spine,
Focus on the base of your spine.
base of your spine. What is that?
So we as human beings have an infinite intelligence inside of us that in different cultures and traditions is known by many different names. What happens is that infinite intelligence goes to sleep at the moment survival is introduced into our experience. So in India, Indian mystics and yogis are very top heavy. All they do is focus on their third eye and chant Om. And that's great, but the problem is unless you've dealt with what's at your foundation, you're not free. So this is a very powerful, practical way to deal with what's at your foundation by simply placing your attention and your awareness at the base of the spine and breathing and relaxing. I've managed to overly simplify everything, but really what's happening is we're integrating all of that fear and survival-based energy that keeps us feeling like it's not safe to be who we are. So it's almost a way of navigating through the world by addressing what we have to address inside of us so that we can be fully embodied. We can be fully here, right? We can fully land and make the impact that we're here to make. So it's the key to unlocking self-actualization. That's what it is. It's how you become limitless. You liberate the infinite intelligence that's inside of you by focusing at the base of the spine and just breathing. And then just welcoming whatever there is to feel, welcoming whatever there is to experience. When you look at safety and the importance of safety, I grew up in a war zone, right? So East London is a very generous description of East London. It was wonderful, but also we didn't have gangs. We had like housing associations. They were divided up by neighborhoods. Every housing association had its own set of requirements. And growing up and being in music, most of my friends were in the import and export business, and distribution on a wholesale level. And so the import and export and distribution, coupled with the immediate threat of violence that could happen, clearly I didn't feel very safe. And so I had to unwind a lot of that feeling, because that feeling doesn't make sense in Naples, Florida, when you're surrounded by 80-year-olds. No one's going to all of a sudden like try and kill you unless it's with bad driving. It's not. And even then it's by accident. It's not on purpose. It's just the wrong combination of medication. And if that's how you're meant to go, then you just say thank you. So I had to unwind a lot of that energy, and I'm like, okay, why don't I feel safe? Like, this is so crazy. You know, I live in a really boring neighborhood. Like, everyone's asleep by 7 o'clock. I mean, like, I'm already like 2 hours past my bedtime. And of course, it was because of this inherent feeling of not being safe. I was meeting life in the same way that I was in East London, where I had to walk into a room and figure out who the shooter was in the first 10 seconds of being in the room. It's that simple. You have to very quickly assess where the threat is in the room. And then you have to be aware of it the whole time you're there. And this is something that I had to do just to do something that I love doing, which was music. Because at that point in London, all of the best music was in all the underground clubs. It wasn't mainstream. Music, it was all in the after hours underground clubs. And so literally in any moment, it could very quickly turn south. And often it did. But so you hone a survival skill, right? You can very quickly figure out who's who in a room, and you have to in order to survive. But I don't need that in Naples. I don't need to figure out what's going on in Naples. There's nothing going on in Naples. There's nothing happening. It's boring. They have to bring the news in from other places just to pretend that there's news. You know? Yeah. There's nothing happening. And today, the Naples Fire Department helped a cat get down from a tree. That's the only thing that's going on. Sun is shining. Life is wonderful. The end, right? So, as it relates to being embodied, we have to unwind the energy that's our foundation, at our base, at our core. Okay? Until that happens, we can't be embodied. And we can't make the difference that we're here to make. So just sit and just focus on the base of the spine and just put your attention there and just breathe and relax. And just welcome whatever there is to feel. And you'll be surprised what comes up. You might shake a little bit. You might feel heat. You might feel electricity. You might feel emotion. Whatever it is, just welcome it. And just know that it's okay. Be grateful for it. Okay? So anyway, I hope that helps. Is that in my book? Yeah, actually, that is all in my book. Yeah, I have expressed all of that in my book. Yeah. You are enough. I just can't wait for people to see that title. It's everything. Good.
I see one more hand.
Yeah, one more. Yeah, we'll go into overtime.
Hi, I'm Mary Beth.
Hi, Mary Beth.
I saw you on Oprah, and I just felt your peace, and that's why I'm here. I've watched your aura all night, white and gold, and I just want to thank you for being a presence here, making a difference.
You know, that's all wonderful. I wish I was doing something, you know, but I'm actually never doing anything. And the funny thing is that you realize that you're not doing anything, that everything's actually just happening, and that you're just there. And sometimes it's just that simple. You know, we received a beautiful email from someone in the community that said that you were doing this book club and wondered if I would come. And I said yes. And so this is just what's happening. But none of it's happening because of me. It's just what's happening. And in that same way, it's happening through all of you, all of the time. And what we have to do is recognize that we are making that impact just by walking down the street, just by being who we are. And that's the age that we're living in. You walking down the street, being who you are, is literally going to start transforming everybody and everything immediately. People are going to start waking up immediately because you are you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Well, is there one more? Okay, there's one more.
Hello, my name is Jane, And
Hello.
I just wonder what happens when you crash your pre-designated video game. I mean,
What happens when you crash it?
yeah, when you're done.
Oh, it's the best. Everything just becomes light. Everything becomes light. Everything is love. Everything is light. So basically, how many of you sign your emails in love and light? Yeah, that actually really happens. That's actually really a thing. It really is just love and light. There's nothing else. So there was a spiritual teacher said this is just a play of consciousness. What is consciousness? It's just energy, vibration, and frequency being interpreted through the lens of the individual, through the five senses. So once we crash the simulation, all we experience is peace and love and light. And we don't have to wait until we're dead. We can experience that right now. Right now. Yeah. You also become limitless. So everything that's been recorded in that black box, you have full access to it. Every language, everything. Just think about that. Everything that you have been exposed to through the course of your life up until this moment, you have full recall of all of it. You also cultivate some pretty interesting gifts. See things, you know things, you can move things, you can do things.